And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome here to Daytona International Speedway as we continue on Speed Weeks for the 11th annual Snickers Cup Series Daytona 500. We are now getting ready for our second group qualifying session. Our first one included the drivers that were not at that point locked into the Great American Race. 8 drivers transferred their way into the 42-car field. However, we are now going to set the stage in battling it out for the front row for the Great American Race. And this is going to be exactly the same way as it was in the first group qualifying session. It will be on speed. 10 laps allowed. It will be whoever has the fastest speed in that 10 laps time. We're going to be basically determining who's going to start on the pole, who's going to start on the outside of the front row. Everybody else that ends up being third on down in their speeds, it will determine where they are going to be in which Budweiser Duel, where other drivers are going to be in the other Budweiser Duels as far as those that were not locked in, etc. from the first group qualifying. That's already been determined. So we're going to be seeing just exactly what we're going to see for 2 fields in those Budweiser Duel events. Should be interesting, but the big question is, who's going to turn the fastest lap to be able to start on the pole for the 11th annual Snickers Cup Series Great American Race? James Qualls lines up on the pole alongside of Stephen Pollard III. Let's go down trackside and get the command.
Drivers, start your engines!
Command is given. We are getting ready to go. Ticker will come up. We will switch it over to the fastest lap option because that's what's going to determine this. Keep in mind, you don't get any points, you don't get any extra credit if you lead the most laps in this event. It's not about where you are going to finish this race, it's about what kind of speed you have turned in that 10-lap time. Also remember that if we end up having a tiebreaker for a certain position, it will come down to who is running the furthest up on track. So say that 2 drivers are tied, but somebody is running quotes second, somebody else is running quotes 10th. The driver that is second on track would get the advantage in that spot. So if we had, say, a tie for the pole position, it'd be whoever's running the furthest up on track. It then would turn into a race for track position. As here we go. Pace car peels off. We're getting ready for 10 laps of racing. Remember, if anything happens as far as wrecks and drivers having to DNF, that also would result in them going to the rear of the field in the Great American Race. As the green flag is out here, we're underway in group qualifying session number 2. The drivers that are starting near the rear of the field are going to get the best benefit of turning fast laps. We saw that in the first group qualifying session. So far, everybody keeping it clean, remaining double wide. They're going to try and get single file here at some point, I would think. That's what allows them to turn really fast laps. As they're 3 wide back there, Michael Norman put in the middle. Danny Wells goes to the extreme high line. Now let's Michael Norman back in. I'd watch for McCrory, Charles Sanford, Dougie Shears to maybe turn the fastest lap this time. Let's see. It's Sean Galligan at the point. Anthony McCrory in second. Ooh, I heard someone scraping the wall back there. That's Richard Johnson. We got a wreck. One car is upside down. That's Nathan Hudson, the fastest in practice. No, it's not. That's Seth Cole upside down. It was Nathan Hudson who was behind him. Seth Cole upside down. Jessica Shelton has gone to pit road. We may already have some backup cars for drivers Pete Lund and Richard Johnson damaged in all of that. And now, Sean Galligan's left without a drafting partner. So is Jacob Lawler, as new pole sitter for the 500 would be Stephen Pollard III in the Volkswagen Jetta. There he is, third right now. In line, James Qualls would line up on the outside of the front row, the way they run at the current moment. Looking like Seth Cole, Nathan Hudson, Jessica Shelton will all have to go to backup cars. We'll take a look and see what happened after this session is over, what happened to them. This time by John Cittadino is your Daytona 500 pole sitter, with Chris Washer now second fastest. Bob Jones is third, Mongold is fourth, and Trent Dunham right now is fifth. Right here, this front group, these top 9 drivers, that's where the speed's going to take place. If I'm Dylan Poteet, I want to get out of the being in the lead. Let these drivers on by and try and turn a lap in the draft. As at the line, is anyone going to take the pole position this time? Doesn't look like it. Still, Citadino and Washer as Nathan Hudson returns to the racetrack without a hood. It'll be interesting on that 6 car whether or not they're going to decide to try and repair that car for the Great American Race, or if they're going to go to a backup car. At this point, Nathan Hudson has the slowest lap on track, so a backup car I don't think really would hurt him. I don't really know how much damage as far as engine-wise that car sustained. At the line, Austin LaPlante is now the new pole sitter. A 55, yeah, wow, I can't even speak. A 35.322. And he's back here in kind of a second group. Well, not really a second group. Michael Norman, Lyndon Wright, LaPlante, and Danny Wells kind of on the tail end of that slipstream of the lead pack. LaPlante running 12th place on track right now as far as track position, but he currently holds the fastest lap in this session. That would start him on the pole for the Great American Race, this time by still LaPlante and Citadino, 2 former NNSCRA champions. Oh, trouble up ahead here! That is John Citadino! Someone else was up in the wall too. I think that might have been Chris Dollerton. And Citadino, there was somebody else that was into it. Benjamin Miles is around, and they're still wrecking! Another car flipping, that's William Duncan, Jacob Lawler, Anthony McCurry, Cody Lamas all involved, as cars are scattered on the exit of turn 2 onto the back straightaway. Oh my goodness. This group qualifying session is turning into a disaster right now for a number of drivers. There's your current pole sitter, and if John Citadino was involved in that wreck, that would mean Chris Washer would then move up to the second position as far as speeds and would start on the outside of the front row for the Great American Race. You saw Jacob Lawler's wounded number 18 on the apron there, trying to get it to pit road, trying to stay on the apron to not lay down any oil. As it's 2 more laps around for someone to try and lay down a faster lap than Austin LaPlante has. Boy, a lot of drivers involved in wrecks here so far in this group qualifying session. And we didn't have anybody wreck, to my knowledge, in the first group qualifying session. Everybody kept it together. There's McCurry getting bypassed. We know he was involved in that incident. William Duncan as well. Jacob Lawler, John Citadino, Cody Lamas. 1 more lap to go here at Daytona. Does anybody challenge for the top position? No, it's still LaPlante. There is Pichu London. You know he's damaged. He got involved in, I think it was the first incident with Seth Cole, Jessica Shelton, and Nathan Hudson. And they are saying John Citadino has withdrawn from this Group Q, which means now Chris Washer moves up to second for the start of the Great American Race. He would be alongside Austin LaPlante. Is coming to the line. Last chance. Anybody going to take it? Nobody's going to take it. It will be Austin LaPlante, who will start on the pole for the Great American Race, the Daytona 500 in the 11th Annual Snickers Cup Series Daytona 500. So Richard Petty Motorsports, they're having quite a weekend right now. James Silverfox makes the show via the group qualifying session number 1, and Austin LaPlante grabs the pole via group qualifying session number 2. But a number of drivers are going to be having to go to backup cars. So the way it looks, that the way they would start up, that they would line up, Austin LaPlante would be on the pole, Chris Washer would be second, third would be Bob Jones, fourth place Lyndon Wright, Mongold fifth, Dunham sixth, Qualls would be seventh, Gardner eighth, ninth would be Dollerton, 10th place would be Pollard the third, 11th Poteet, 12th Danny Wells, Michael Norman 13th, 14th Charles Sanford, Anthony McCurry would be 15th, William Duncan actually would go to a backup car, so let's see who would not be going to a backup car. It would be, I think, Sean Galligan would be 15th place. 16th, probably Dougie Shears. 17th, Richard Johnson. 18th, Pichu London. And then the rest of the drivers all going to backup machines will start at the rear of the field for the Great American Race. Well, put it this way. They'll start at the rear of the field for the Budweiser Duels. They can work their way up through the field for a good qualifying position in the Budweiser Duels. But John Cittadino, William Duncan, Benjamin Miles, Cody Lamas, Jacob Lawler, Nathan Hudson, Jessica Shelton, and Seth Cole will all be starting at the rear of the field for their respective Budweiser Duels due to having to go to backup cars for what just happened. So let's take a look real quickly at what brought out those two incidents that just took place here during this Group Q session. Here's the first one. Seth Cole put in the middle 3 wide. Contact there with Charles Sanford sends him up into Nathan Hudson's door. It looks like Jessica Shelton had some contact with either Richard Johnson or Benjamin Miles. And then there's Richard. He goes up. He pounds the wall. Pichu London riding the wall there as well. I don't know if Jessica Shelton's car actually did teleport or not. She might have actually... Nope, she didn't drive away. I thought maybe she might have been able to refire the car, but apparently not. Seth Cole upside down and Nathan Hudson, he did return to the track. We're going to have to find out if Nathan Hudson's team does decide to pull out the backup car or not for the Budweiser Duel, because he did come back on track without his hood. And there is Seth Cole. Now let's take a look at the other incident, a big incident that took place out of turn 2 not too long after. And Daytona 500 is very famed for its big ones. Well, we had a big one here in Group Q. Chris Dollarton, John Cittadino, James Qualls taking it 3 wide into turn number 1. Dollarton gets really loose, slides up the racetrack into Cittadino, and then Cittadino up and gets hooked by James Qualls. Dollarton pounds the wall as well. So James Qualls getting involved in an incident. Don't know if that backup car is going to be necessary for him or not. And then John Cittadino's car, I believe, comes back down the racetrack. There were a number of drivers who had lost the draft early, were trying to draft together to produce some speed, a second group, and they're going to come into view right here, and this is where a lot of the hard hits are going to be taken. You can see John Cittadino has no control over his car. Engine is done. There's Benjamin Miles. Comes full speed into him. Cittadino shoots back up the track, and then the self-washing Daytona International Speedway brings the car back down the racetrack again. Oh, and Sean Galligan was in this. There's another driver that's going to have to go to a backup car. I did not realize. Jacob Lawler, and then here comes the big parade. Cody Lamas, William Duncan, Anthony McCrory. Nowhere for Lamas to go. There is Duncan, runs into the back of Lamas. And then McCrory flips Duncan over roof first into the safer barrier for the 26. Hard to see through the smoke, but that was a violent hit for William Duncan in the Toyota Camry. And then fortunately everybody gets down towards the inside of the racetrack, and we didn't have any more incident there, but that was some hard licks there for Cittadino, Miles, Galligan, Lawler, Duncan, Lamas, and McCrory. All of them undoubtedly going to have to go to backup machines. So thank you all so much for watching this group qualifying session. Austin LaPlante is your official Daytona 500 pole sitter. Chris Washer will line up beside him on the outside of the front row for the Great American Race. Everything else from third on back will be determined via the Budweiser Duels, which are next on tap here as we continue on Speed Weeks here for the 11th Annual Snickers Cup Series Daytona 500. You've been watching a production of the NNSCRA Offline Racing at its best. We'll see you guys at the Budweiser Duels coming up next.